Assalamu alaikum ji, and a very warm welcome to today's fireside chat session on behalf of Noor International University. मेरा नाम है सालिम रहमान. आज हमें join कर रही हैं Miss Roshane Zafar. We'll tell you a little bit about Roshane. She hardly needs an introduction. But before we formally introduce our guest for today, मैं request करूँगा admin team को to kindly show us through a promo video of Noor International University, what it's about, and then we'll come back and introduce Roshane. Assalamu alaikum, Roshane.
Wa alaikum salam.
So over to the admin team. Admin team is stuck. They'll be back shortly. I think the admin side is having possibly some technical issues. No worries. So let's go ahead and start with the formal introduction for Roshane. Ms. Zafar is the founder and managing director of Kash Foundation. She's worked with the World Bank in Islamabad in the Water and Sanitation Department for several years prior to joining and setting up the foundation. Ms. Zafar was one of the first Ashoka Fellows in Pakistan and has been a Schwab Foundation social entrepreneur since 2004. Ms. Zafar has also been awarded the Tamgha Imtiaz, Mashallah, which is one of Pakistan's highest civilian awards by the President of Pakistan for her work in the field of development and women's empowerment, and was also awarded the Skoll Award for Social Entrepreneurship in 2007 and the Vital Voices Award for Economic Empowerment in 2010. She has also served as a member of the Prime Minister's Task Force on Austerity and Federal Government Restructuring and sits on the board of several institutions, including the Finca Microfinance Bank, Pakistan Microfinance Network, Munsalik, Connect College, and Pakistan Medical Council. Ms. Zafar is a graduate of the Wharton Business School, University of Pennsylvania in the US, and also holds a master's degree in development economics from Yale University in the US. Roshane, Ms. Zafar, thank you very much for joining us today and for taking out time from your busy schedule to join us, our students, our faculty, and on behalf of Noor International University, welcome आज के session के अंदर. So Roshane, I'll just hand it straight to you. थोड़ा सा अपना, mashallah, with such an introduction to be proud of. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll launch into today's topic, which is very interesting and something I think which is close to everybody's heart here in Pakistan, which is unpaid care work. Why is it just a woman's job? So over to you.
Thank you, Salim. It's a pleasure to be here today, and thank you for inviting me. It's always good to connect with young people. I think they're the future of our country, and try and understand what are some of the things that impact them. So maybe sharing my story can help them understand how I came at it and what were some of the challenges I faced. And let me tell you, whatever challenges we face, somebody else before us has been there. So there are many paths that have been tread before that we walk, over as well. In my case, my journey began quite early, actually, if I think about it, and it started in school. Interestingly, from an event that took place in my own personal life at home. I was in school, and and my mother was always very, very particular about picking me up after school, and that's why we will also talk a bit about unpaid care today, because that's a topic that affects a lot of women and also affects the opportunities they face when it comes to the job and working environments. So she would always be very particular about getting us from school. So one day she didn't come, and I was one of my friend's mother said that I was supposed to go home with her, which I found rather odd, and I got a little concerned. But anyway, I arrived home and I asked my brothers, where was my mother? And they said, she's in jail. So, and for a minute, I was shocked. Why was my mother in jail? Was she a robber? Had she done something bad or illegal? Turns out, as you all know, that the Women Action Forum started in the 80s. To protest against the Hudud ordinance and the law of evidence. And my mother was part of that protest. And that is why her, along with Asma Jahangir and many of the other women leaders of that time who were standing up for the rights of women, were taken up by the police and put into jail. Subsequently, of course, my father went and bailed her out. But the point being, that was when I really became aware that something's not right in our society when it comes to women, when it comes to law, when it comes to the way that the society views gender, and when it comes to power dynamics. So this, as a 9-10-year-old, was something that was at the back of my mind, and it stayed with me. It really impacted me. And of course, at that time, I was not consciously aware that this was going on. But as I progressed and I started reading, I was an avid reader. Books were really part of my life. And of course, I liked all the classics, including Jane Austen, where again, it's very interesting because she doesn't depict women who are victims. She depicts in her literature women who have taken on society and are questioning the norms. And they're different. They want different things. They're women who value the intellect, as opposed to women who are put into certain gender classes or certain gender roles. So that's how it all started. And then, of course, I went on to do my A levels, and then I went on to college. And it was very interesting. It was in college that I really learned about my own country, because I had access to information that I didn't have. I remember going to the library for the first time and being astounded. In those days, of course, we didn't have the internet. So we had to go and actually search for books. And I think that is still something that exhilarates me, to think of being in a library and seeing so many books, physical books. So वहाँ से फिर जर्नी शुरू हुई, और फिर of course economics को choose किया. इसलिए क्योंकि मुझे लगता था, as a woman, I needed to earn money. Now, that's also an interesting thing, because as we become professionals, as we seek careers, financial independence or financial sustainability in our careers becomes very important. At least it was for me. I felt that I should choose a field where I could be able to support myself. So economics and finance was the field that I felt I would fit in most. But then I realized along the way that ye bhi mere, that fire that's in my belly, उसका ये भी जवाब नहीं है, क्योंकि अगर तो मैं वॉल स्ट्रीट पे काम करूंगी तो मैं तो कॉर्पोरेट दुनिया को ही और पैसा बनाना की अपॉर्चुनिटी दूंगी. How am I really going to help the women, which is where it all started in my head. So then I decided to switch gears, and I went on to study development economics with the idea that I would work for a multilateral like the World Bank and try and alleviate poverty. And as women are affected by poverty the most in the world, there's a feminization of poverty. If you think about the poorest people in the world, आपको पता लगेगा कि वो औरतें और बच्चे हैं दुनिया भर में. ये कोई पाकिस्तान का स्टैटिस्टिक नहीं है सिर्फ.
Correct.
So I felt that working on something where I could help to facilitate the development of a country, this would lead to the alleviation of women's plight and status. So that's how I ended up at the World Bank, and the rest is history. If you want me to talk a bit about why I did Kash, or do you want to wait?
Well, I think what would be most interesting, Marshall, I think most of our audience, आपकी इतनी high visibility है, Kash Foundation itself. अगर आप इजाज़त दें, तो perhaps we can move to the topic at hand for today, which is unpaid care work. And I know कि Kash की आजकल एक नया slant है और नया initiative है, which is in this area. थोड़ा सा अगर उसके बारे में बताइए कि why, what unpaid care work is for the benefit of our audience, and then why did you pick this particular topic as a focal area, and how do you think you're doing? And then subsequently, obviously, towards the end of the conversation, हम आपसे ये जरूर पूछना चाहेंगे that as an institution of higher education, हम किस तरह इस चीज को आपकी मदद कर सकते हैं? How can we plug in and help kind of propel your mission forward? So let's focus on the unpaid care work, the definition as you were to.
Thank you, Selim. So again, coming back to having looked at myself as an individual who wanted to stand independently on my feet, when I was working for the World Bank, and I met a lot of women from across Pakistan who would say to me, कि अगर हमारे पास आमदनी हो, अगर हमारे पास financial power हो, तो हम बहुत सी चीज़ें बदल सकते हैं और जो हमारे ख्वाब हैं उनको हम मीट कर सकते हैं। अब ये वो ख़वातीन थी जिनको जब मैं थरपाकर जाती थी या कलाज जाती थी या नीलम वैली जाती थी, तो ये वो ख़वातीन थी जो अपने वक्त दिन का जो वक्त था उसमें से 3 से 3.5 घंटे जो थे पानी अपने ख़ानदान के लिए साफ पानी मुहैया करने के लिए, जमा करने के लिए जाया करती थी। सो यू कैन इमेजिन कि वो सुबह 6 बजे उठती थी. A woman, was the first one to get up in such households and the last one to sleep. And her day is mostly filled with things that help her maintain the welfare and well-being of her family. And I would often ask these women and say, what about leisure? कभी आप थकी हैं, कभी आपने दोपहर में रेस्ट किया है? And they would look at me कि ये किस किस्म की बातें कर रही है, अजीब किस्म की. लीजर या फालतू वक्त तो हमारे पास होता ही नहीं. हम तो हर वक्त इसी कश्मकश में होते हैं कि दिन के अंदर अंदर जो काम करने वो हम कर लें. खाना पकाना है, खा पानी मुहैया करना है, खा बच्चे की देखभाल करनी है, खा जो बीमार हो गया उसका ख्याल रखना है. तो ये वो सारे काम हैं जो अनपेड केयर के जिम्मे में आते हैं. हमें आदाद शुमार ये बताते हैं कि ख़वातीन जो हैं वो मर्द से 300% ज़्यादा ऐसे कामों में जो है वक्त सर्व करती. तो अब इसके बरक्स अगर हम देखें और हम ये कहें कि एक औरत जो है वो ये भी करे, जिसको हम ट्रिपल बर्डन कहते हैं, बच्चे भी पैदा करे और उनको पाले, घर का काम भी करे, बच्चे भी पैदा करे और साथ साथ कारोबार करे या मुलाजमत करे, तो शी इज बेयरिंग अ ट्रिपल बर्डन. And when I was thinking of setting up Kash, this became a question mark for me, that how do we gainfully employ 50% of our population and at the same time alleviate the constraints that they face. So Kash came out of that process, and of course I visited Bangladesh while I was working after I left my job at the bank. और वहाँ मैंने जाके देखा कि जब एक खातून कमाती है तो 90% पैसा जो है वो अपने घर पे लगाती है. और वो किस तरह लगाती है? बच्चों की नशोनुमा पर, उनकी तालीम पर, और फिर अपने घर की जो बेहतरी के लिए अच्छा घर बनाती है या वॉशिंग मशीन खरीद लेती है या कोई ऐसी सपोर्ट लेती है किसी चीज़ की जिससे उसका ये काम अनपेड केयर का कम हो, ताकि उसका टाइम फ्री अप हो और वो कारोबार अपना और बेहतर तरीके से चला सके. So I have women in my office who I was just talking to the other day. She gets up in the morning and she has to drop her children at the daycare center. Then she comes to work. Then she picks them up and drops them home, and then comes back to work, and then she goes back home and does all the work that is required at home. So the question for us is, we look at Pakistan's participation rate, female participation rate. We have one of the lowest in the world and in South Asia. 22% women are in the formal labor force, जिसका मतलब है कि 5 में से 4 खवातीन फॉर्मली काम नहीं करती, इनफॉर्मली करती हैं. और वो बहुत सी खवातीन हैं जो छोटे छोटे कारोबार शुरू करती हैं, लेकिन फॉर्मल पार्टिसिपेशन लेबर फोर्स में नहीं है. तो इसमें एक सबसे बड़ा कंस्ट्रेंट आता है, वो है अनपेड केयर का, जो कि समझा जाता है कि खातून का ही काम. सो ये हमने जब कैंपेन शुरू की, इसी नौयत से शुरू की है कि वी नीड टू ऑल चिप इन. It's not just a woman's work, it's everyone's work. And why is it that we consider it to be below our masculinity? कि अगर एक मर्द औरत की हेल्प करे घर के कामों पे तो लोग हंसते हैं उस पे, यूजुअली इसका मजाक उड़ाया जाता है, जबकि ऐसी बात नहीं. Everybody has to chip into this. So that's where it started from, and it was triggered also by COVID. When women had to work from home, it really did become a big issue for them. So we felt that we needed to take this on and raise awareness, because part of the work that we do is advocating for change.
Fantastic, mashallah, what a wonderful story, and I think really gives us an insight into your thought process and something जिस चीज ने आपको directly impact किया, affect किया, आपने देखा. और वाकई आपने सही कहा कि जो हमारी वर्कफोर्स एम्प्लॉयमेंट पेनिट्रेशन है 22%, जो आपने कही पार्टिसिपेशन रेट, one is, of course, there's always that question about voluntary versus forced unemployment or forced lack of participation per se. We're proud to say, mashallah, at the Noor FMS institutions, we are exactly at 50-50 as far as employment is concerned. And lots of people say, it's probably on account of nurses, which is completely untrue. Yes, nursing is very high threshold at about 92%, only 8% are male. Lekin on the other hand, our faculty is at 48% female. जो paramedical staff hai, that is more than 50%. So alhamdulillah, proud to say कि we are fully supportive of representation on the employment side, and on the education side, on the academic side, we're proud to say that we're at about 74% female. So iska and because we are mostly in professional education, we feel that there's an opportunity which is to be extracted by this whole female body which is studying with us, and we hope that they will actually enter employment, because sadly, जिस तरह आपने कहा कि बहुत सारी खवातीन doctors बनती हैं, dentists बनती हैं, but they never come into the field of practice, either on account of हम अक्सर ये क्वेश्चन करते हैं पेरेंट्स का कि जी because it's a fairly high merit and very professional degree, will the girl practice? And a question which is to be asked is, if the parents allow it, what when she gets married? Will the husband allow it? इस तरह की चीजें, ये सवाल हमारी सोसाइटी में पूछे जाने चाहिए हैं, because they need to be confronted. Recognition that there is a problem is step number one, and I'm so happy mashallah कि आपने इसको अपने कैंपेन को recognize करने में इतना वो focus करवाया है, because the second step would then I guess be reduction and then of course redistribution. बताइए इस नौयत से रोशाने कि आपने क्योंकि माइक्रो फाइनेंस का एलिमेंट भी बीच में रखा है, so that's something which is much more in your control. So let's say microfinance का एक element जो कश्फ का एक original campaign था, which I understand still continues. How is that plugging into this initiative, if at all? And then from a policy level, आपका क्या ख्याल है कि government जो infrastructure related activities हैं, उनके लिए क्या कर सकते हैं? And then again, what can we as institutions of higher education inculcate, instill in either in our internal policy or in our curriculum or awareness campaigns, जिसके तहत हम आपको assist कर सकते हैं in the goals that you're trying to accomplish on this means.
Thank you, Salim, again. जहाँ तक institutions का सवाल है, I'm very glad to hear कि आपकी कश्फ की तरह 50% से आपकी तो हमसे ज़्यादा है, हमारी 50% जो staff है, खा वो पेशावर से हैं या बदीन से हैं या डेरा गाजी खान से हैं, जहाँ पर भी हमारा दफ्तर खुलता है वहाँ पे हमने 50% मेन और 50% वुमेन की हायरिंग करनी होती है, वरना हम दफ्तर नहीं खोलते. सो ये तो हमने मैंडेट किया हुआ है, और हमें बहुत से लोग कहते थे जी ये नहीं होगा, मगर आई कैन टेल यू कि हमारे पास जहाँ 10 एक जगह होती है वहाँ पे 10 खवातीन के सीवीज हमें आते हैं. सो इट्स नॉट अ क्वेश्चन ऑफ सप्लाई, इट्स अ क्वेश्चन ऑफ हाउ द इंस्टीट्यूशंस टैकल इट. और ये आपने बड़ी अच्छी बात की. हमने भी, जिस तरह आपने डॉक्टर्स की बात की, चूंकि मैं पाकिस्तान मेडिकल काउंसिल के बोर्ड पे हूँ, तो ये इशू हमने कई दफ़ा डिस्कस किया कि क्यों कर हमारी खवातीन जो हैं वो डॉक्टर्स तो बन जाती हैं लेकिन वो आगे प्रैक्टिस नहीं करती. क्या ये हस्पतालों का मसला है कि वो उन्होंने इंस्टीट्यूशनल सपोर्ट उनको नहीं दी, कल्चर का मसला है, या खवातीन का अपना मसला है, या उनके ख़ानदानों का प्रॉब्लम है? सो इसमें मल्टीपल इश्यूज हो सकते हैं जो कि इम्पैक्ट करते हैं, मगर मेरे ख्याल से जो चीज़ कंट्रोल में है हमारे, वो हमारे इदारे हैं. और जब आप चाहते हैं कि एक ऐसा इदारा हो जिसमें जेंडर पैरिटी हो, तो उसमें आपको वो सहूलियात देनी पड़ती हैं. मिसाल के तौर पे अब तो खैर ये मैंडेटेड भी है, हमारे पंजाब में तो मैंडेटेड है कि 50 लोगों से ज़्यादा का दफ्तर होगा तो आपको वहाँ डे केयर सेंटर बनाना है. ये बहुत ज़रूरी है, जिस तरह हमने अपने इदारे में बनाया हुआ और हमने अपनी तमाम तर ब्रांचों में भी बनाया हुआ. आपको पॉलिसीज फ्लेक्सिबल वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस के लिए बनानी पड़ती हैं, और कोविड ने हमें ये तजर्बा जो था बहुत अच्छी तरह सिखाया कि वर्क फ्रॉम होम हो सकता है और लोग प्रोडक्टिव भी हो सकते हैं. सो हैविंग फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी इन वर्क आवर्स इज देयर बिकॉज वुमेन हैव मल्टीपल रोल्स. और इसको बुरे नजरिए से नहीं देखना चाहिए. अमूमन यही होता है कि अगर आप वर्क फ्रॉम होम की फैसिलिटी चाहते हैं तो लोग समझते हैं ये छुट्टी ले रहे हैं. तो हमें अपना माइंडसेट भी बदलना पड़ेगा. इसी तरह हमारा एक प्रोग्राम है, जैसे हम बात कर रहे थे कि खवातीन डॉक्टर्स तो बन जाती हैं लेकिन शादी के बाद प्रैक्टिस नहीं करती, तो हमारे साथ भी ये मसला हो रहा था कि हमारी यंग वर्कफोर्स है, जब उन खवातीन की शादियां होती थी तो इन लॉज नहीं काम करने देते थे. तो हमने फिर एक स्पेशल प्रोग्राम बनाया जिसमें हम कहते हैं नॉट विदाउट माय मदर इन लॉ, कि मैंने अपनी सास के बगैर आगे नहीं बढ़ना। तो हम ये करते हैं कि जब भी हमारी किसी स्टाफ मेंबर की मंगनी होती है या उन्होंने शादी का वक्त आता है, तो हम उनके इन लॉज को दफ्तर में बुलाते हैं और उनको बताते हैं कि जी इस एनवायरनमेंट में आपकी बहू जो है उसकी क्या वो हरासा नहीं होगी, उसको हम कैसे सपोर्ट करेंगे, ये आमदनी जो लेकर आ रही है कितनी अहम है बच्चों की, आपके फ्यूचर के लिए और आपकी इकोनॉमिक प्रॉस्पेरिटी के लिए। तो ये वो चीज़ें जो हम करते हैं ताकि लोगों का नज़रिया बदले। सो इंस्टीट्यूशन के ऊपर बहुत सी चीज़ें लागू होती हैं अगर वो चाहते हैं कि ख़वातीन काम करें। एंड आई वाज टॉकिंग टू अ group of young doctors recently, female doctors, and they said, our number one problem now is child care. तो हमें डे केयर सेंटर्स दें इस अस्पतालों में तो हम उतना ही काम करेंगे जितना, बल्कि मर्दों से ज्यादा करने को तैयार। लेकिन दैट इज बिकम बिकॉज अब न्यूक्लियर फैमिलीज भी होना शुरू हो गई। पहले होता था मदर इन लॉ आ जाती थी, माँ आपकी मदर आ जाती थी ख्याल रखने में। So these are some of the practical problems that women face, and we can't just blame the culture कि जी in-laws नहीं काम करने देते. We have to look at other opportunity costs that come with it. Now coming to microfinance, why microfinance? I always say कि अगर हमारी निस्फ आबादी जो है उसको आप मईशत का हिस्सा नहीं बनाएंगे तो मुल्क तो तरक्की कर ही नहीं सकता। तो ये तो एक नो ब्रेनर है कि माइक्रो फाइनेंस यानी कि छोटे कारोबार अगर ख़वातीन शुरू कर रही हैं, और आपको मालूम है कि हमारी ज़्यादातर जो पॉपुलेशन है वो $3 से $4 अ डे जो कि गुर्बत का एक मेयार है, 85% उससे नीचे रहती है। तो जब हम छोटे कारोबार की बात करते हैं तो तकरीबन 80 से 90% ख़वातीन कम आमदनी घरानों में कोई ना कोई छोटा मोटा कारोबार कर रहे हैं। उनको 2-3 बड़े मसाइल का सामना करना पड़ता है। एक तो है कि उनको सरमाया नहीं मिलता काम बढ़ाने के लिए। सो कश ने उस नीड को पूरा किया। फ्रॉम द बिगिनिंग ऑफ टाइम हमने तकरीबन 5 मिलियन ख़वातीन एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को सपोर्ट किया है बिजनेसेस शुरू करने में और उनको सक्सेसफुली रन करने में। दूसरा, उनको राब्ता साजी का मसला होता है, नेटवर्किंग का प्रॉब्लम होता है। सो वी लिंक देम टू मार्केट्स ताकि वो अपना जो प्रोडक्ट है वो सेल कर सके। और तीसरा, फाइनेंशियल मैनेजमेंट के कंसर्न्स आते हैं कि वो पैसे लेंगी, सरमाया लेंगी तो उसको सही कैसे इस्तेमाल करेंगी। तो हम फाइनेंशियल एजुकेशन ट्रेनिंग पे भी काम करते हैं और हमने तकरीबन कोई 3-4 मिलियन ख़वातीन को फाइनेंशियल एजुकेशन पर ट्रेनिंग दी है कि वो अपनी एंटरप्राइजेस को और कैसे चलाएं। तो माइक्रो फाइनेंस एक टूल है जिसमें जब खातून, जैसे मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया था, व्हेन शी अर्न्स, it's not just changing herself, it's not the individual who changes, the family changes and the entire society transforms, because once a child is educated, he or she will become a active contributor to social change. So that is the movement that you see when a woman is earning, and this can be tomorrow we have this recognition ceremony which we call the Kashf Women's Entrepreneurship Award. And these are women coming from all over Pakistan. I was just looking at the list. And there are such innovative businesses. Ek hamari khatoon hai who is doing making envelopes. Ye shaadi ke jo nahi envelopes hote jo jisme aap paise dete hain. And she started very small. उसने एक ही स्टेशनरी दुकान को अपने मोहल्ले में देना शुरू किया और आज उसके जो एनवेलोप्स हैं वो पूरे पाकिस्तान में जाते हैं। एंड शी हैज हायर्ड 15 अदर वुमेन। सो द अदर थिंग दैट स्टार्ट्स टू हैपन व्हेन वुमेन स्टार्ट अर्निंग इज दे ब्रिंग अदर वुमेन अलोंग। इट्स वेरी रेयर फॉर अ वुमन टू वर्क सिंगुलरली। We tend to be, I mean, there's a difference in gender, we tend to be more collaborative. And that's what you see in the enterprises that women run. They bring other women along, they train other women, the message spreads, there's role modeling. So ये भी एक इसका इम्पैक्ट है जो हम अदादो शुमार में तो नहीं क्वांटिफाई कर सकते, मगर हम उसको सोशल चेंज के अहाते में ले सकते हैं।
Very interesting. And Roshane, so I think the word perhaps that we are looking for is the multiplier effect. So बाकी आपने कहा कि जी एक family member as opposed to जो मर्द है खानदान का, उसके बजाय अगर खातून जो the female head of the household, when she starts earning, आप सही कह रही हैं, वो अपने घर पे पहला खर्चेगी, and of course to aid the infrastructure within the house. आपने washing machine की बात की, बिजली लगाने की बात की, I'm sure कि fuel for cooking is another big thing कि अगर वहाँ पे कोई cylinder की option आ जाए तो that could help instead of the wood or the pathis and so on and so forth. इसी vein में अगर हम continue करें रोशाने तो मैं अगर आपसे इस तरह से पूछूं कि again as an institution of higher education we perhaps have our own multiplier because एक self selection के तहत जो हमारे पास लोग आए हैं and because again 74% females coming in probably it would have been even higher in a lot of ways but थोड़ा सा हमें balance करना पड़ता है to make sure that the male colleagues also are able to participate given कि वो कहाँ तक पहुंच गए हैं already the parents have taken that one step to say कि अच्छा जी मैं आपको undergraduate या even graduate studies की तरफ माइल कर दिया है. How can we help on the side of enabling them further, either from the wherewithal of creating more awareness or creating more appropriate, let's say, pathways for them to enter the workforce, be more successful because success begets success wali baat hai. We want to create those success stories which are then emulated and then in itself become a multiplier. आप हमारे लिए क्या suggest कर सकती हैं based in light of what you have seen with your experience both here in Pakistan and globally?
Gee, again, a very good question. One of my pet dreams, and in fact, I was sharing this again at the PMC level, that all medical schools should have career counseling for their a very good mentoring, career counseling, framework. Which allows where you start from the very beginning and you start telling people what a job environment is going to be like, what do you need to do, how do you choose your career, what kind of challenges will you face, how do you manage your families, how do you manage the society, what are your rights as a nurse or a doctor or what have you. So I think that, and giving them the confidence, I think having female doctors come and talk to them who have made it. And there are many of them. I mean, of course, we have people like General Nigar Johar, who's done incredibly well in the army, which, as you all know, is the corps itself is all male.
Male dominated.
For her to survive there. I mean, we should have people like that. Even if she's not willing to come, just document a video chat with her and just share it with people. So I think a lot of that kind of role modeling should help. Career counseling should help. Mentoring should help. And really, it's not easy for a woman. Let me also be very clear. People talk to me now after having done this for 30 odd years. And of course, it looks simple, or I will explain it simply. But yes, it's very challenging to be a woman in this society. To be a professional woman, it becomes even harder. To be bringing up kids at the same time, and running a career, it's not easy. As I said, it's done mostly single-handedly because वो हमारा society नहीं ऐसी कि मर्दों को और औरतों को मिलके ये काम करने हैं. तो फिर expectation भी यही बन चुकी हुई है हमसे. So it's so difficult for us to be constantly meeting the standards. So I think if we talk about these things, जैसे हम पहले भी बात कर रहे थे, पहला तो है कि there is a problem and let's talk about it. And we should talk about this openly. I don't think it's saying that society is bad or men are bad. I think this whole divide, these days I often see, unfortunately, हमारा social media जो है is full of this, but I often see the term feminism being used in a derogatory way. I don't know how you would react to it, Salem, but I think we are doing disservice to the issue of women's rights by not understanding that there is a problem and there is a bias. And there is inequity in our society. And unless we talk about it and say, yes, this is where the problem lies. Now let's try and address it. From a moment a girl is born, and now I'm not talking about families like ours. Hamare यहाँ, mashallah, you have a sister and she's done so well, and she's, she went abroad, studied, did all that. I also don't come from a family where I had to face discrimination. But अगर हम एक आम औरत की बात करते हैं, या जब वो एक बच्ची पैदा होती है घर में, तो उसको तो हमेशा ना सुनने को मिलता है. और जो बच्चियां आपके पास जो यूनिवर्सिटीज में एनरोल होगी, वो बहुत मुश्किलात का सामना करके आती हैं. Yesterday only I was talking to a doctor who comes from close to a place in Dera Ghazi Khan, and she was saying how when she wanted to study, she got into Fatma Jinnah, and when she wanted to study at medical school, leaving, her mother was all for it, and her mother was illiterate. The father said nothing doing. He took out a pistol and said, मैं तुम दोनों को मार दूंगा. सो यू नो ये हमारी थिंकिंग है, और ये मैं कोई इतने पुराने वक्तों की बात नहीं कर रही, 8-9 साल पहले की बात करें. सो ये माइंडसेट को जब तक हम बदलेंगे नहीं, पहले तो हम कहें हमें एड्रेस करना है कि ये है मसला. और ये जो हम लाइंस ऑफ क्या कहते हैं हमने ड्रॉ कर ली अपने माशरे में कि हमें बात नहीं करनी, मगर हमें एक दूसरे को बुरा भला करे. टॉलरेंस जो है ना, ये भी हमें सिखाने की जरूरत है अपनी यूनिवर्सिटीज में. यू नो, इट्स ओके टू डिसएग्री, व्हाई नॉट? It's fine, I may not agree with you, but at least I can do it respectfully and I can listen to your point of view. But we are not able to do that. And unfortunately, I speak to a lot of young people in universities and colleges. I see that they're not being this is something that they're not being exposed to or educated about. So we are not teaching ethics, we're not teaching values, we're not even talking about them. So मेरे ख्याल से आई एम श्योर कि आपके पास होगा अपॉर्चुनिटी. मैं जब बिजनेस स्कूल में गई थी तो मुझे मैंडेटरी था कि मुझे 4 सालों में 3 क्लासेस लेनी थी बिजनेस एथिक्स पर. अब वो क्या थे, दैट वाज ऑफ कोर्स सेपरेट इशू, बट व्हाट आई एम सेइंग, आई कुड नॉट गेट माय डिग्री without passing or taking every year for the last 3 years of my college to pass on business, complete my business ethics courses. So ये वो चीजें हैं जो हमें सिखाने की जरूरत है. और अनफॉर्चुनेटली हम कहते हैं कि इक़दार जो है वो घर से सीख कर आते हैं, लेकिन ऐसा हो नहीं रहा. We are abdicating our role as parents and not teaching our children the right thing. So ये भी एक रोल है जो हमारा as educators होने की जरूरत है. मैं अपने इदारे में भी करती हूँ. कोई भी आता है तो पहली चीज जो हम बात करते हैं वो सिर्फ वैल्यूज पर करते हैं.
सही कह रही हैं आप रोशाने. एंड आई थिंक जो आपने, आई रिमेम्बर बिजनेस स्कूल में हमें भी पहले 3 दिन वाज जस्ट एथिक्स एंड वैल्यूज एंड लाइक यू सेड, ठीक है, आई थिंक वो एक कैपिटलिस्ट ओरिएंटेड मामला है, लेकिन दैट बीइंग सेड, आई थिंक द वैल्यूज and the moral obligations that you have to fulfill globally at any level are the same, and you have to embody it day in day out. It's a way of life. It's not it's a way of thinking. Thank you for this. And jo aapne kaha ki career counseling wali baat as a center of higher education, that is something which is, yes, again emulation dekhte hain log, success ko dekhte hain, they look at role models. So वाकई ये एक चीज है जो हम बहुत कोशिश करते हैं. We also show them alternate career paths which may be suitable for certain areas which are they're sensitized perhaps to make sure that जब वो professional world में जाएं, they are set up for success, not set up for failure. Because yes, the deck is sadly stacked currently not in favor of the female class, and that can like you said, rural urban divide bhi hai, social strata divide bhi hai. अगर इसको पता है और अगर इसको आप आइडेंटिफाई करके इसको एड्रेस करें तो those who are going into the workforce, at least taking one step forward, you make sure that they are able to propel themselves in a positive manner. Roshan, let's step back a little bit to something that you brought up briefly in between, which is COVID. And COVID को अगर हम सामने रखें तो हमारे 2 सवाल हैं आपके लिए कि नंबर 1, of course, कोविड ने एक बहुत पॉजिटिव रोल भी प्ले किया है. वर्क फ्रॉम होम हैज बिकम अ रियलिटी व्हिच आई थिंक इन इटसेल्फ, जो अनपेड केयर वर्क का एलिमेंट है, जो एक वो डाइल्यूशन हो गई है उसकी. सो एज टू से अगेन, आई एम नॉट जस्टिफाइंग द फैक्ट दैट वर्क फ्रॉम होम नीड्स टू बिकम अ रियलिटी, बट इट हैज बिकम एन एक्सेप्टेबल रियलिटी फॉर अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल. उसके बारे में आई लाइक योर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू कि आपको इन लास्ट लेट्स से 2 सालों में क्या चीजें नजर आई हैं? How has the needle moved, either positive or negative or both ways? Number 1. And number 2, from the microfinance initiative, the MFI side, obviously वहाँ पे भी impact आया है on the business side. How do you see the trends again having changed for Pakistan on both these different silos that I spoke about? उस पे अगर आगाह कीजिए.
बिल्कुल. देखें, कोविड ने हमें, there was a silver lining, and as I say, every pandemic or every crisis brings with it a silver lining. Of course, we were not prepared for it. We have not experienced anything. We read about the Spanish flu, I'm sure, and we heard about it, and we used to wonder ye kya bala hai. We read about the Black Plague, but these were just historical facts, and we didn't. And now we have lived through a pandemic, and we are here to tell the tale. तो इसमें सबसे पहली चीज जो हमें हेल्प की वो टेक्नोलॉजी थी. एक चीज जो रियलाइज हुई दैट द फ्यूचर ऑफ वर्क इज चेंजिंग. अब ये वो नहीं हो सकता कि ब्रिक एंड मॉर्टर हो और हम समझें, शायद हम इतने बड़े बड़े दफ्तर ना बनाया, शायद the notion of working from home will now stay with us for times to come. And when we hire, in fact, we were thinking at Kashf also, we need to hire a few new IT people. We are actually thinking that we will tell them to work from home, link them up, give them all the facilities, pay them a little more for the electricity and the utilities they use. But rather than having to fund the space in the office, which is more expensive, have them work out of home. So we are going to experiment with that, because we were having issues with getting women to stay in IT. Unfortunately, unlike other parts of the world, Pakistan में IT में औरतें बहुत कम हैं. So और उसकी भी वजह वो है क्योंकि इंजीनियरिंग स्कूल कोई नहीं जाना चाहता. अगेन वहाँ पे औरतों की जो एनरोलमेंट रेट है वो बहुत कम है. नस्ट को देख लें, डाउ कॉलेज इंजीनियरिंग यूनिवर्सिटी को देख लें, जो कि हमारे फ्रंट लाइन है, या अपनी यूईटी को देख लें, तो वहाँ पे औरतों की इनरोलमेंट ही नहीं है, क्योंकि उन्होंने एनवायरनमेंट ही नहीं बनाई, और क्योंकि औरतें इन साइंसेज इज नॉट सच अ, it's not promoted here. I mean, women in STEM is not something that's done, and I hope that in the future we can change that. So फिर हमने सोचा कि क्यों ना हम उनको घर से काम करने को कहें और देखें कैसे हो सकता है. So to cut the long story short, I think technology helped us and is helping us. The future of work is going to change. The notion of HR policies and how the relationship between the institution and the employee is going to change and is changing over the years. So I think lots of new things happening, and we may need to have to rewrite our HR manuals and policies going forward. We were talking the other day as our loud thinking in our office that we may have to do a Starbucks at Kashf. What that means is, rather than setting up, हमारी ब्रांचें हैं इस वक्त 350 ब्रांचें हैं पूरे पाकिस्तान में, तो हम कह रहे थे आगे जाके शायद हमें ब्रांचें ना खोलनी पड़े. आपने हर अपने फ्रंटलाइन स्टाफ को टैबलेट दे दी हुई है, टैबलेट से वो लिंक्ड है, वाईफाई मौजूद है, वो अपने घर से या जहाँ जहाँ फील्ड में जाते हैं वहाँ पर ही अपनी जो है फॉर्म्स फिल कर लेते हैं. तो दफ्तरों की क्या जरूरत है आगे जाके. So you do a Starbucks, which is you have one main hub office. People come in, they dock in, 10 branches dock into the same place, and they go off. So that will cut down your costs. And it will also make it easier for women to work, because they can work closer to their homes. So I think COVID did do that for us. But the downside of COVID was, as I said to you, that women had, the triple burden became more on them. They were the ones taking care, doing work at home, taking care of the kids, doing their homework, doing online learning where it was available, and managing the families. Women-led businesses, आपने microfinance का सवाल पूछा, तो COVID affected women-led businesses more than it affected the sectors where men were working. For example, beauty salons. Now, we found a lot of women who were running small beauty salons in their homes. They all got shut down. Schools, tuition centers. These were all the areas that we were funding, and women were running them. A lot of women were doing luxury item production. For example, शादियों के साथ मुंसलिक थी, अड्डे का काम करना, एम्ब्रॉयडरी करना. So high end काम जो था, जो कि luxury में आता है, वो बंद हो गया. So औरतों की जो businesses थी वो बहुत affect हुई. But I must acknowledge the resilience of women entrepreneurs. 95% of the women who had taken loans from us, which was over 600,000 women, they all paid us back, even though they faced business challenges, because they wanted to continue their businesses, and in a month's time, then the businesses opened up. So I think women, and I was looking at IMF and World Bank numbers also recently, अगर 100 मर्द unemployed हुए हैं कोविड की वजह से, तो 140 औरतें हुई हैं. औरतों के ऊपर 40 गुना ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट हुआ है मर्दों की बिजनेसेस से के हवाले से ग्लोबली, और शोबों के हवाले से. फॉर एग्जांपल, औरतें थी जो फ्रंट लाइन वर्कर्स थी, उनका काम जो था, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट उनकी ज्यादा हुई. So COVID has left a gender trail, and as they say, if you look at the gender gap in the economy, which the World Economic Forum takes out, तो उन्होंने पहले लिखा हुआ था कि 140 साल में अगर हम इसी तरह चलते रहे, जो इकोनॉमिक ट्रैजेक्टरी है ग्लोबल, उस पे चलते रहे, तो हमें 140 साल लगेंगे मर्दों और औरतों को इक्विटेबल इकोनॉमिकली और फाइनेंशियली इक्विटेबल करने में। अब उन्होंने इसको रिवाइज कर दिया और कहा है 200 साल लगेंगे। सो कोविड का इम्पैक्ट जो है वो 60 साल आगे हो गया कि एक वक्त आएगा 200 साल के बाद जब औरतों की वेल्थ और मर्दों की वेल्थ इक्विवेलेंट होगी। हमारी जिंदगी में तो नहीं होगा, लेकिन जो हम कर सकते हैं वो हमें करने की जरूरत है, जो कंट्रीब्यूशन हम कर सकते हैं। और यही कश्फ का भी सिलसिला है कि हम सबको तो नहीं हेल्प कर सकते, लेकिन जो खातून है जो बिजनेस शुरू करना चाहती है, जिसके अंदर जज्बा है, जो अपनी ज़िंदगी तब्दील करना चाहती है, अपने ख़ानदान को आगे लेना चाहती है, वो हमारे पास आती है और हम उसको ट्रेनिंग भी देते हैं, सरमाया भी देते हैं, राब्ते भी देते हैं, कॉन्फिडेंस भी देते हैं, रिकग्निशन भी देते हैं। क्योंकि एक औरत के लिए इस माशरे में रिकग्निशन बहुत ज़रूरी है। आई वॉज वेरी लकी, मेरे पास जितने भी मेरी ज़िंदगी में मर्द आए, मेरे अब्बा, मेरे भाई, सारी मेरी फैमिली, मुझे उन सब ने सराहा। कभी किसी ने ये नहीं कहा कि तुम ये नहीं कर सकते। तो आई एम ग्रेटफुल टू अल्लाह के उन्होंने मुझे ये मौका दिया कि मैं एक ऐसे घराने में पैदा हुई जहाँ पे मुझे तफरीक का सामना नहीं करना।
Mashallah, and of course you've done justice to what you're doing, and we're all very proud. Mashallah, you're a beacon of light for not just women but for all Pakistanis across the board. This is something new for me, or now that you've said it, bilkul aapne, I can it resonates with me. जो आप कह रही हैं 1 to 1.4 वाला ratio है women-led businesses, because वाकई उनका नौयत, उनका sector, उनकी type of business, and the fact के household का वो जो unpaid care वाला बोझ बढ़ गया by the fact of I think the kids not being in school, और in जिस तरह आपने कहा हमारी बहुत सारी अभी भी न्यूक्लियर फैमिलीज हैं और वहाँ पे एजिंग माँ बाप होते हैं, बहन भाई होते हैं who are probably negatively affected of course by COVID or are more susceptible to COVID. So that is something which is worrisome. I hadn't thought of it like that, but again I learned something new. Roshani, just आपने एक World Economic Forum का touch upon किया. I'm just and this will be my second last question. I know we only have 3 or 4 minutes left. Just a very broad overview कि माशाल्लाह आपने पाकिस्तान को represent किया है on multiple forums internationally. आपको क्या नजर आता है कि हमारी जो from again this is from a microfinance perspective or maybe from a business perspective, हमारी खवातीन का level in terms of their ability as an entrepreneur, is it at par as the rest of the world? कोई खामी, any positive or negative, anything that stands out for you in terms of how you see our women entrepreneurs and how you've seen the results through your organizations?
I mean, I strongly believe that our women are equally resilient, equally enterprising, equally creative and innovative when you put them at par with, let's say, other South Asian women. So I've traveled extensively in India. And when I say travel extensively, I don't know, I mean tourism, I mean development tourism, कि मैंने बहुत सा वक्त गुजारा है ऐसे इदारों के साथ, ऐसी कम्युनिटीज़ में, फील्ड में जाके, स्लम्स में बैठ के, देहात में बैठकर ख़वातीन से बात किए, बांग्लादेश हो, नेपाल हो, बड़े सगीर के जितने भी ममालिक हैं उन सब में मैंने जाके ये वक्त गुजारा है ख़वातीन के साथ। तो मैं आपको ये कह सकती हूँ कि हम में और बाकी ममालिक में वहाँ के एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, माइक्रो एंटरप्रेन्योर्स में फ़र्क नहीं है, लेकिन हमारे चैलेंजेस बहुत हैं। अगर आप श्रीलंका जाएं तो वहाँ पर आपको ज़रा खुली इन्वायरमेंट मिलेगी। बांग्लादेश में तो अब नॉर्म हो चुका है, वहाँ पर तो खातून, ये सोचा ही नहीं जा सकता कि एक खातून जो है वो कारोबार नहीं करेगी या मुलाजमत नहीं करेगी। आपको पता है कि आप मुझसे ज़्यादा जानते हैं कि वहाँ की जितनी भी टेक्सटाइल प्रोडक्शन है वो औरतों के बलबूते पे चल रही है। women are the main employees of that sector and they are the ones that charge the engine. So वहाँ पर अब वक्त के साथ साथ बहुत तब्दीली आ चुकी हुई है। तो हमारे यहाँ पे कल्चरल चैलेंजेस बहुत हैं ख़वातीन को, डिस्पाइट द फैक्ट कि उनके अंदर वो क्रिएटिविटी है और हुनर भी मौजूद है। फिर रिसोर्सेज का भी मसला है। सेलम, टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, as you know, we are not promoting the education of girls in the country. We have one of the highest out of school children, and I know your mother is also very, very involved in trying to improve this standard, and every time we meet we talk about that. तो ये वो चीज़ें हैं जो कि हमें एक किस्म से पीछे धकेलती हैं, लेकिन उसके बावजूद हमारी, अगर आप lending outcomes की बात करें, performance outcomes की बात करें, success rates की बात करें business के, our women are doing equally well across the world, and it's despite the odds. So I salute the women of this country, that even though that they have these insurmountable issues, they still overcome them. And once they've overcome them, they're unstoppable. And I really want to recognize that.
Fantastic, mashallah, and it's so good to hear. Waqi aapne sahi kaha ke, look at where they are and what they've achieved. Imagine if they weren't in the shackles that they've been put in, if the system were to actually support them rather than pull them down. So kudos to them, kudos to you, and thank you for supporting them. I think the better half of our population, which can be productive. And our last question, we are at time, lekin how can we let you go, Roshane, without you addressing our students, any message for them? Well, of course, our students, both the boys, the girls, the faculty members who are there, any parting words of wisdom for them as we break away from the session?
I think one of the things I always say to young people is live your dreams. Don't give up on them. Whatever happens, you have to remember what you want in your life. That's important. And be authentic. Jo aap hain, be authentic to yourself. I mean, that's what I learned over the years also. What kind of a leader do you want to be? What kind of an individual do you want to be? You must know yourself well, and you must remain true to yourself. And the third point that I already said was, देखिए कदरों के बगैर इंसान आगे नहीं चल सकता, और वो जो अच्छी बातें हैं हमारी सोसाइटी की, हमें उनको याद करना चाहिए. और values are very important, and we must stick to our values, and we must build on those. And last message to my young men and young women is, we need to treat each other as individuals, as human beings. It's not about gender anymore. Technology has changed it. It's not brute force that's going to make you succeed today. It's your intellect, it's your mehnat, it's your capability, it's your ikhlaq. These are the things that are going to help you succeed.
Very true. Very well said, Roshane. And again, I'd like to thank you for again very wise words of wisdom as closing. And I hope that inshallah somewhere soon you've indicated an interest to engage with our student body as well. We would love to host you on campus. Inshallah, in fact, just today our spring intake is starting. We had orientation in the morning, so I'd like to welcome those students as well. Somewhere during this term, agar aap ijazat dein, so we'll coordinate with your office to have you over at the university face to face as well. Have a mentoring session. If you'd like us to send a few students over, again, we'll coordinate. But until then, हम बहुत मशकूर हैं कि आपने इतना ज़्यादा हमारे साथ time निकाला, हमसे मुखातिब हुई. I'd also like to thank our audience who's joined us live, who will be watching this video later. This will become part of our archives on our website, www.niu.edu.pk. And with that, मैं इस program का इख्तिताम करूँगा. Roshane, thank you again for joining us. And feel free to sign off, Roshane. The video that wasn't played in the beginning, वो हम quickly play करेंगे for about 30 or 45 seconds, just for our viewers to understand what some of our programs are on offering for the spring intake as well as for the fall intake. But until then, thank you very much, and Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. So admin team, over to you for the video. Thank you very much again to our audience for joining us. I'm glad we were able to play the promo video. Again, मैं आप सारों को invite करूँगा whenever you're ready to come and view our website www.niu.edu.pk to learn more about Noor International, the programs that we offer, as well as all our fireside chat sessions which we've had in the past. The goal of these sessions is कि हम आप लोगों को industry academia partnerships को मज़ीद करें, strengthen, as well as get you ready for real life when you choose to enter it, inshallah. Thank you again.